It's 1963. Turkey, Nevşehir. An ordinary villager was making a small renovation in his house. As he struck the wall with his pickaxe, he felt that the other side of the wall was hollow. He dug a little more. A hole opened. When he looked inside, what he saw would horrify him and the entire world. Darkness, an endless darkness, and the cold air coming from within that darkness was like the breath of something that had been imprisoned there for thousands of years. He slipped through the hole. Lantern in hand, he advanced step by step. First, he found a room, then a corridor, then more rooms, more corridors, stairways, tunnels. He walked for hours, but the path never ended. He realized that beneath his village lay an entire city, underground at a depth of 85 meters, a vast labyrinth carved into the rock. One of the greatest archaeological discoveries in the world had been made. What was found was the petrified form of humanity's greatest fear, its most helpless moment, and perhaps its deepest secret. Today, we descend 85 meters beneath the earth into the Derinkuyu underground city. We will get lost in this labyrinth carved into the rock and witness how 20,000 people lived for months without ever seeing the sun. But the real question is this: who built this vast underground city and why? And more importantly, who were they fleeing from? Come, if you're ready, let's begin. Cappadocia. These lands, shaped by wind and water over millions of years from volcanic tuff, offered humanity a unique gift: rock that is easy to carve yet hardens upon contact with the air. The first people realized this, and they began to dig. So when was the first strike made? Historians give different answers to this question. Some go back to 3000 BCE, even earlier. During the Hittite period, perhaps everything began as underground storage. The Phrygians continued. The strongest evidence we have points to the 8th and 7th centuries BCE. But what truly enlarged Derinkuyu, what made it immense, was a wave of fear. The 2nd century CE, the Roman Empire. The years when Christians were persecuted, those killed for their faith thrown into arenas, burned. The first Christians fleeing via Antioch and Caesarea sought refuge in this remote corner of Cappadocia, and what they found surprised them greatly. Because Derinkuyu had existed long before them, they simply continued. They dug, descended deeper, extended the corridors, but they never asked, who first carved this city, and why did they have to go so deep? What fear was strong enough to make people abandon the sun? Derinkuyu was not just a shelter, it was a complete city. In this vast labyrinth, estimated to have 18 to 20 stories, some 20,000 people are thought to have lived. So how was this possible? On the upper levels there were stables. Animals were protected from the cold while also serving as both food and transport. It would have been difficult to bring them down further, and their body heat and smells warmed the upper levels while distracting enemies. They also served as the first warning against possible toxic gas. Further down were kitchens and dining halls, alongside massive storage rooms for provisions. So far, 52 water wells have been discovered inside. Some descend to a depth of 85 meters, but the true miracle is the ventilation system. Reaching a depth of about 55 meters, the ventilation shafts carried fresh air to the lowest levels of the city. Some shafts were so ingeniously designed that they provided ventilation, while also making it possible to reach groundwater through the deep wells they contained. The same shaft was both the city's lung and its life-giving vein. Imagine 85 meters underground, completely isolated from the sun, yet you can breathe, you can drink water, you can live here together with thousands of others. For its time, this was not only an engineering marvel, but also the petrified form of hope, of the will to survive. When you descend into Derinkuyu, the first thing you notice is the narrowness of the corridors. Only one person can fit, two cannot walk side by side. This is no coincidence. It is a deliberate design for defense. When an enemy came, it was meant to face them one by one, to strip them of their numerical advantage. But what is truly horrifying are the massive stone discs placed at certain points in the corridors on the 3rd floor. Circular doors, 1.5 meters in diameter, weighing close to 500 kilograms. They can only be opened from the inside. When an enemy approached, as these stone discs were rolled into place, it meant life for those behind them, death for those in front. A small hole behind the door was left for shooting arrows or thrusting spears. Defense could be conducted even from within the stone. These doors made Derinkuyu nearly impregnable. They were designed to withstand sieges lasting months. If the enemy could not enter, they had to wait outside. But those inside had no need to wait, for they had built an entire world underground. On the 4th floor, there is a structure that sets Derinkuyu apart from other underground cities, the missionary school, a wide hall with a vaulted ceiling. In its side rooms are study chambers. This was where clergy were trained and sacred texts were copied. On the same floor, there are also assembly halls. The city's elders discuss the decisions to be made during the siege here. When you descend to the 5th floor, you encounter a cruciform church. The traces of frescoes still remain on its walls. In its center is a baptismal pool. On its walls are small stone chambers carved out for confession. Deep within, far from the light of the sun, people continued their worship, baptizing their children. This was the city's spiritual center. Faith in the darkness was here the strongest bond of survival. The 6th and 7th floors host the city's narrowest corridors. There are additional storage areas here, but what is truly important are the water wells. The wells on these floors do not open to the surface. To prevent the risk of poisoning, these are water sources fed only from underground. There are also escape tunnels beginning from these floors, the final escape routes to be used if the enemy penetrated all the way down. The 8th floor is the lowest level currently open to visitors. Here, the ventilation shaft ends. At 85 meters depth, breathing is still possible. This is the city's known limit, but it is not the end, because beneath your feet lie unexcavated levels. Archaeologists estimate the total number of levels to be around 20. It is likely that the tombs were also located on these lowest levels, life and death, intertwined deep underground. Derinkuyu's greatest mystery is not how large it is, but where it connects. On the 3rd floor near the missionary school, there is a tunnel. This tunnel, as you might guess, does not lead to another room or floor. This tunnel stretches for kilometers and connects Derinkuyu to another underground city, Kaymaklı Underground City. Two great underground cities are linked by a secret passage 9 kilometers long. There are dozens more underground cities in the region. Perhaps all the underground cities in the region were interconnected in a vast network. Imagine a great civilization underground, like an ant colony. So, why was Derinkuyu underground city used for centuries abandoned? The earliest traces of Derinkuyu reach back to the Hittite period. Perhaps it began as underground storage in the 2000s BCE, grew deeper under the Phrygians. Then came the Persians, then the Romans. Each civilization left its mark, adding new levels, extending the tunnels. In the 2nd century CE, Christians fleeing the persecution of the Roman Empire began using Derinkuyu as a refuge. They continued to take shelter here through the Byzantine, Seljuk and Ottoman empires. They remained here for approximately 1,700 years. After the population exchange in 1923, when they too migrated to Greece, there was no one left to use Derinkuyu. The city that had witnessed uninterrupted life for thousands of years was buried beneath the earth, until in 1963, a villager's pickaxe introduced it once again to the world. We have come to the end of another video. I am SIMURG. See you in the next video.